Hello students and welcome to our today's lecture, DJL2210, Production Planning, Design and Directing, Department of Journalism, School of Social Sciences. My name is Mr. Michael Mwangangi, and our today's lecture objectives are understand requirement for each production stages, identify the content of a production proposal, preparation of a production budget, and to understand how to justify a production. Now, our introduction. Before production of any media project, there's needed to plan for every stage the production has to undergo. These production stages, according to ZTOL 2006, the pre-production, production, and post-production, which we can as well refer to them as before, during, and after, respectively. According to Millerson 2008, pre-production involves all the preparations and activities that a station or its personnel carry out before they move into the studio or before they go out into the field on the first day of production. That is, it couldn't be to gather information. This stage consists of two stages. The first involves activities necessary for transforming an idea into a workable concept or script. Two, the second involves all the production details, or rather production details such as location, the production team, and equipment. So to help you maximally in the pre-production, you must focus on program ideas, the proposal, the budget, and the script. So can we have a look at that? Now, program idea. For any production to take place, first we must come up with an idea. And this idea can emanate from the producer or any of the production team members. So you realize that at times there could be challenge of getting good production ideas. And the way forward for you to be able to generate these ideas, there are two approaches that we can be able to follow. One, we can engage on what we refer to it as brainstorming technique. So brainstorming technique is simply where you invite the members of the production team in your production house. You sit and allow each of the production member to share any kind of idea that they have. Then in the process, we will be able, or you are going to be able to come up with a number of ideas. And from there, we can be able to select the idea that is workable and that which is profitable. So what do we mean by idea being workable? That is workability of the idea. Here we are going to be concerned of the resources that we have, simply because you realize that at times we can be able to come up with ideas that cannot be actualized into a production because the resources that we have cannot be able to allow us to achieve that. Now on profitability, most of the production houses or most of the media houses have been established purposely to make profit. In other words, they are commercial media houses. So for that, we'll have to ask ourselves, once we produce this particular program, will it be able to bring profit to the station? So when we produce the program and we start airing it, we want to ensure that there are those advertisers who are going to be willing to come and advertise as that program airs. Next, we can generate ideas through what we refer to it as idea wall. So in this case, you are going to write just one particular word based on a particular topic. Then from there, you can be able to come up with other related words on the side of that particular word. So in the process, you realize that you'll be able to come up with different workable and profitable ideas. So for example, we are saying that, for example, you could write a word like diseases. Then we know that there are so many things or so many words that you can be able to relate to diseases. So for example, once you write such a word, probably in the center part of your piece of paper, then next to that, you can come up with an idea like, for example, COVID-19, okay? Then you carry on trying to make it more specific, and from there, you can get another idea that you'd probably go ahead and do your production on. And this one, for example, impact of COVID-19 on caregivers, okay? So to demonstrate that, we have an example down there. What we are saying is that you start by a particular word. It can be based on a particular topic. For example, you can come up with a word like youth. So you ask yourself, what else can you be able to talk about youth? You realize that you can be able to talk about youth and politics, okay? You can as well be able to talk about youth and development. You can be able to talk about millennials amid COVID-19. So as you do that, you realize that you'll be able to come up with different ideas. So probably you realize that one of the ideas that you can be able to develop into a project or a program could be, for example, millennials amid COVID-19. Then after that, the production team, which is ended by the producer, will weigh out whether that idea that you've come up with or that idea that the team has come up with, whether it can be actualized, that is, whether it is workable and whether it will be profitable to the organization. So one of the documents that you will be required to prepare in the process of your planning for your production is what we refer to it as a program proposal. So what is a program proposal? It is a written document that stipulates what you intend to do. It briefly explains the program objectives and the major aspects of the presentation. It will as well stipulate, among others, the title, the objectives of the production, the process message, the target audience, the format. And in this case, when we are talking about a format again, you'll have to clarify on what kind of program format are you going to use. For example, it could be either a documentary, a feature, drama kind of a format and the like. But now we are saying that you'll have to clarify whether, again, that production will be a single show, whether it will be just be shown at once within the station, or it will be shown in form of series, or whether it can be produced to a digital movie. Again, still on your proposal, you'll have to show treatment. So a treatment is simply a one-page kind of document that will be able to indicate the title of that particular program. It will be able to indicate the people whom you think will be able to make the program or that project a success. Probably in this case, you can be able to talk about the host who will be hosting that show. You can be able to talk about the kind of guests that will be invited for that particular show or for that particular program that you are producing. It will as well talk about production methods, tentative production budget, and the like. So the next important document, again, that you're supposed to produce is the production budget. So here, the question that you're supposed to ask yourself is, what will it cost to produce the production? So what you're supposed to know is that however small a production is, it has to cost something. Even if you're going to be using all the resources from your production house, for example, the equipment, the workers within your production house, the locations within your production house, there must be some cost that you are going to incur, okay? So most of the production, or rather most of the time, you realize that when you're doing production, people feel so angry most of the time. So you realize that you'll have to take care of their snacks, take care of lunch, and so forth, and that will cost you money. So here we are saying that this is usually a tentative budget that covers all costs to be incurred at the pre-production, production, and post-production stages. So when you are costing, or when you are coming up with this budget, you're not only going to do a budget for the pre-production stage, but you're going to do a budget for the entire program production, which involves the 3 stages. That is the pre-production stage, the production stage, and the post-production stage. So we are saying that the budget should be based on the following. 1, the pre-production cost. Now, although we are going to see other parts that are part of pre-production stage, one of the things that you'll be doing at the pre-production stage is coming up with the script. So members of the production team, that is the script writer, the producer, will have to sit down and get that idea that either the producer is having or any of the production team members is having. Then they try to put that down in a written form so that we can be able to arrive to what we refer to it as the script. 2, we have the studio rental. So you'll have, again, to ask yourself, where are you going to do your production from? Is it in-house, that is it within your studio, or are you going to hire the studio elsewhere? Or are you going to do your production on location, that is outside there? So on that second point, studio rental, you'll have to ask yourself, how much are you going to incur when you are hiring that particular studio? On location expenses, you'll have to ask yourself, how much are you going to incur when you are acquiring that particular location, plus other expenses that will be associated when you're doing the production at that particular location. The other item will be on equipment. The production cannot be successful without the production equipment. So in this case, you'll have to budget for that. Example of equipment that you'll be using, for example, the cameras, the lights. You'll be using probably you'll be using microphones. You are likely to be using audio mixers, visual mixers, among others. The next item that you are supposed to factor is the on-camera talent cost. So on-camera talent is simply those people or those individuals who will be able to appear within your production. It can be their faces, or it can be their voices. So you'll have to factor how much are they going to be paid. Next is online and offline editing. Now, online editing is simply when you do the editing as the program is being aired. Okay, so we have those live productions. So for this to happen, you know that you're supposed to be having different equipment within the studio, and the director must be keen enough so that he can be able to anticipate what is supposed to happen next and before you shoot that particular part. So in the process, you realize that he instructs the visual mixer what kind of shots is he supposed to pick so that they can be broadcasted live. So offline editing is when you first do the shooting. You shoot first, then later you get that footage, you go to your editing machine, and you edit the entire production, inserting the credits, the titles, the transitions, and all that. So still on your budget, you'll have to factor the research and follow up. So when you're coming up with the idea, once you have gotten that good idea, before you come up with a script, there must be some bit of research. You'll have to go to the library, you consult textbooks, you'll have to identify people who are in the know, you talk to them, and at the same time, you go to YouTube to check whether there are other related kind of productions that have been produced before. So you do not want to produce similar kind of production like those already existing productions. So even if the idea is similar, there must be something new that you are including within your production. We have the production crew cost, and on the production crew cost, these are the production team members. And this includes, for example, the cameraman, the makeup artists, the lighting manager and his team. So again, you'll have to cost that. You'll have to indicate how much are you going to pay them. Next is the location, scouting, and related travel expenses. We had said that you'll have to ask yourself, where are you going to do your production from? So if you are going to do the production outside there, it means first you'll have to scout for these locations. So the producer is the one who is in charge of doing that, but he has to send his assistant to go outside there and to try to locate different suitable shooting locations. So when this assistant producer goes to look for these locations or to scout for these locations, there are expenses that he incurs, probably the travel expenses, the meals, the accommodation, if he is likely to take more than a day, and the like. Next, sets and set construction. Now, the production has to take place at a given place or at a given location. So there is a way that we are going to set up that scene so that the audience can be able to believe in whatever that we are producing for them. We want them to be moved emotionally with what they are watching. So for them to be able not to be distracted, then it means that you'll have to have set, or you'll have to have done the location where you're doing your shoot in a way that it actually resembles that particular place that you are talking of. Producer, director, writer, creative fees. Again, the producer, the director, the writer, whom we include within what we refer to it as the above the line personnel. Again, you'll have to indicate how much they are going to be paid. Next is video recording and duplication. Even though you have the cameras, you know that you must as well ask yourself what device or where are you going to be recording that video on. So we have the memory cards. Probably you are going to be recording on the hard disk of that camera, or you're going to be using the video tapes. So you'll have to cost that. On duplication, this is when you want to make a number of copies, maybe a number of DVDs, so that you can be able to distribute your production. Next is advertising, promotion, and publicity. Here you indicate the much that you are going to need to do advertising. You want your production to be known, assuming that this production of yours will not be broadcasted by the television, but you want people to go and watch that, to purchase the DVDs and watch. So you'll have to make them know that this production exists. So you'll have to ask yourself, how much are you going to be charged to advertise your production in the radio station or TV station and the like. Promotion, most of the time you realize that once you are done with your production, you may want to show it at different places. And this could be including, for example, colleges and universities. You could be organizing for the members of the public to go and to watch the production at a given hall and the like. So next, insurance, shooting permits, emergencies. So again, depending on the kind of production that you are going to undertake, you'll find that there are some of the scenes that will include climbing, maybe tall buildings or high places. So you do not want to risk, so you'll have to ensure your production members as well as the talent. Also, you need to cost the shooting permits, any emergencies that might occur or arise. So next, materials, supplies, and miscellaneous. So you'll have to cost for all those expenses. So miscellaneous is simply when you know there's something that is likely to happen, but you cannot really be able to tell whether it is going to happen. So you have budgeted for everything, but you are supposed to also include some money that is going to take care of any unforeseen expenses. So that's what we refer to it as miscellaneous. So how do we justify the production? So once you figure out the cost of the production, you may need to justify it either in terms of cost effectiveness or expected results. So in these production houses, you're expected to justify your production, and there are three ways through which you can be able to justify your production. One, it's what we refer to it as cost per minute, and how you are able to justify that is by getting the final duration, or rather define the final production cost by the duration of the finished product. Yeah, so you'll have to look at the total amount of money that you have spent in producing that production, and also you look at the duration of your finished product. So what you'll do is to get that total production cost. You define that by the duration that production has taken. So take for example, if for example your production has you have incurred a cost of 9 million and your production runs for 30 minutes, then you get the 9 million you define by 30 minutes. So per minute it will be 300,000. Next is cost per viewer. So how do you achieve that? You define the total production cost by the actual or anticipated number of audience. Okay, so you get the total production cost. You define that by the number of expected audience. Okay, what usually happens when it comes to issues to do with the audience, there is a research body that is able to, or rather what we refer to it as media monitors, who are able to provide information on the number of audience as well as the sentiments of that audience for that particular media house. So it will be easy for you to be able to anticipate or to tell the number of audience who are likely to view or to watch that production. So you get the total production cost defined by the number of viewers. The last one, cost versus measured benefits. So how do we arrive at that? Now this is one of this one, it might be a challenge for you to be able to justify, but still you can be able to, and you're going to be able to do that by looking at probably the results that the production or the project intended to achieve. Take for example, like if the production was meant maybe to make the members of the society probably to change their behavior, okay? Like for example, in the case of increasing rate of infections of sexually transmitted infections, you may find that maybe the government or simply your production house has decided to go ahead and produce a program that will be able to enlighten people of the dangers of such and how they can be able to shy away from that kind of behavior. So how are you going to cost that? Now, this one will have to take some time. The audience will have to be given some time to watch this production. Then a research will be conducted, and then we can be able to check or to see the rate of infection. Then we compare that with how the infections were previously before we started airing that program, okay? So if the infection rates has gone down, then you can be able to say that the production was a success. If not, it will be a failure. Another example that we can be able to give on that, like for example, a given company would wish to produce a commercial, and the main objective of that particular company would probably want to increase the sales. So once they have produced the commercial, assuming that they have spent like 10 million to produce that commercial, and then once the commercial has aired, after a while, probably 6 months or 4 months, they look at the profits that they have incurred based on the sales that they have made. And probably they realize that they have meant something to do with 20 million, okay? So you realize that that commercial was effective because it was able to bring to the company extra 10 million. Now let us look at what you'll be required to plan for when it comes to pre-production. The other one is, the next one is scripting. And we have said that there's no any production that you can be able to carry without a script. So you'll have to come up with different types of scripts depending on the kind of production that you're going to undertake. So you'll be required probably to come up with what we refer to it as a fully scripted format kind of a script, or semi-scripted format kind of a script for your production. So that's what I was trying to explain there, that depending on the production that you're going to undertake, your production can either require a fully scripted script, and others will require what we refer to it as semi-scripted scripts. And as you can see, there are those different programs that you can be able to produce using the different types of scripts that I've just mentioned. Now on the production stage, now we know that under production stage, this is where you actually do the filming or the shooting. But before you start to shoot, you must make sure that everything is in order so that when you start shooting, everything will flow smoothly. So here the director, assistant director, unit production manager, and the producer plan the sequence for shooting the individual scenes. The production crew work together to outline the visual look of the production, how the scenes will be staged, set construction and decoration, costumes, makeup, and air design and lighting. So you'll have to make sure that all these things are in place before you start your shoot. Now, as I said earlier, this stage involves now the technical aspects of the filming process, which include operating the camera, lighting the scene, recording the sound, and all that. Now, the post-production stage. Now, what we know or what usually happens on that particular stage is now editing. You want to put the final project together. So you want to make sure that the visuals and audio are in sync. That is, whatever that we are seeing is matching with whatever that we are getting to hear. You are going to include some effects. You are going to include the titles, the credits, and the like. Still on that particular stage is now when you go and clear the payments that you have not done, payments to the production team, to the talent. You clear the amount that was remaining for the equipment that you hired. Now, based on those areas that we have highlighted, you realize that there's a need for you to know on how to go about all that. And now we want to look at the research information for the planning and preparation phase of the production process. So the first stage that we were talking about was the idea. And this involves you to find sources of information on the subject. So here you are supposed to go and make sure that you get more information based on the idea that you have. And where can you get that? You'll have to go to the library where we are having books. You'll have to consult some publications, maybe online from different journals. You'll have also to identify people who are in the know, who are going to give you that information that you require. So once you have identified the sources of information, arrange to consult those sources. You arrange to go to the library, read those textbooks, meet these people, talk to them, consult those other publications and the like. Now, next stage is for you now to accumulate data. Of course, you have met the people, you have gone through the books, and you have written or you've taken down all that information that you need. The next step is for you to select the material that is relevant and appropriate to the idea. So when you are reading, you get so much information, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some of the information that you are going to gather there can enable you to have another good idea that you can be able to produce other programs in the future. But for this particular program that you are going to produce, you must be able to select that information that you think is appropriate to this idea that you are developing to that project. Determine whom the program is for. You are not going to be producing the program for yourself. You are going to be producing the program for a particular target audience. Okay? So you'll have to decide, are you going to be targeting the youth? Are you going to be targeting the children? So it will be good for you to at least be able to say that this program is aimed for this kind of audience. Next, ask yourself, what is the purpose of the program? Well, there are all the programs that you are going to be producing, you must be having the key purpose, okay, as to why you are producing that program. There must be that key objective as to why you are producing that program. Is it just there to entertain people? Is it to inform? Is it to persuade them to do something and all that? Does it have, or rather, does it have to relate to an existing program? So you'll have to ask yourself whether this program that you are going to produce, whether it has to follow or to measure up to a certain standard of a different program that probably you ain't produced or you ain't seen somewhere. So again, ask yourself what will be the length of the program, because now if the program is to be heard, then now you realize that the media house, they are so particular when it comes to the duration. Again, if you are to pitch or if you are to go ahead and maybe sell your program to the given broadcaster, then you'll have to tell them that this program is of this length and it will be able to fit into this specific period of time when their target audience are listening or they will be watching. Next, you coordinate ideas into an outline with endings and sub-endings. Next, consider the program development, forming a rough script or a shooting script. So you look at that idea that you have and the information that you have already collected, then you try and come up with a script, okay? So when we are coming up with a script, we have different parts of the script or parts of the story. We have the beginning, the middle, and the end, okay? So you'll have to ask yourself where each of the information that you have will have to be placed. So next we are saying that you consider the practicality. So here, ask yourself, what does the viewer actually need to see and hear at each point in the program? Ask yourself, where can the program be shot? That is in terms of the location. Will it be done in the studio or will it be done in the location? What sort of props are needed for each sequence? So these props, probably you'll need some books if someone is supposed to be reading in that particular scene. You'll need some coffee table, okay? If you want to have probably a sitting room in your a particular scene that shows a sitting room, you need to have couches there, okay? So all those items, all those materials, the furnitures, the utensils, are the ones that we are talking about there. How should the scene be arranged? Okay, so this is simply setting the scene, and that one is guided by the director. What talent, that is people in front of the camera, are needed for the program. So you'll have to ask yourself, which people are you going to require for actualization of that program? And they are the ones that we are referring to them as talent. They couldn't be the performers, all the actors and actresses. So the other thing that you'll have to consider is the equipment. You ask yourself whether your shoot will be done with a single camera or multi-camera. Single camera is where you're using just one camera. Multi-camera, you're using more than one. Ask yourself what equipment beyond the cameras will you be requiring. This probably in your production you'll require, for example, like microphones, okay? You'll require probably lighting, you'll require audio mixers, visual mixers. So next, ask yourself, is the equipment owned? Can it be borrowed or does it need to be rented? So again, you'll ask yourself whether your production house owns that particular kind of equipment, okay? Next is the feasibility check. So here you check on what is really involved. So you ask yourself, based on the idea that you have or ideas that you end, are they being developed based on the resources that you have, ask yourself, is there another way that you can be able to realize that kind of a production that will be a little bit cheaper than the cost that you could have incurred? Ask yourself whether the needed items can be acquired, okay? So you're asking yourself whether you can be able to purchase those items if you do not have them, okay? And this could be of help if in future productions you'll be requiring to use those kind of items. Next is about the locations. You ask yourself whether the locations are available and whether they can be affordable. Next, is there sufficient time to do research, organize a rehearse, shoot, end it? Okay, depending on the productions that you are going to be doing, you'll have to ask yourself whether you'll be having adequate time to research for those ideas, to come up with a script, to go ahead and shoot, end it, and probably be able to meet that deadline that the client wanted to use that production, deadline that the client wanted to have that production. So still on that, you ask yourself about the cost that you are likely to incur. So you ask yourself, what is the total budget? How will you arrange to research maybe possible costs for a sequence before including it in the program, and all that, as you can be able to see on that slide. The other thing that you'll have to ask yourself is whether you'll need some assistance. That is, will you need assistance, manpower, expert aid, or advice, or will you need some extra transport? Okay. What talent is involved? Okay, so you ask yourself whether you require professional talent or amateur kind of a talent, and that will depend on the kind of a project that you are doing. Do you need professional services, that is to make items? Like in this case, probably when you are doing or when you want to come up with sets and alike, you'll have to ask yourself whether you require those professional people. Again, when it comes to facilities, you'll have to ask yourself whether those facilities are available and whether they are sufficient for the production that you are going to produce, or for that part of the shoot that you are planning to undertake. Requirements and the post-production work. So ask yourself, again, what will you require for post-production, which we've said that includes editing of the final project. Again, you'll have to ask yourself about the problems. You know, at times, there are those problems that are likely to arise during your production. So here we are saying that you ask yourself what might be the impact of a major problem, such as weather, on each sequence of the production. Okay, is there any obvious danger factor, that is when it comes to shooting, like some of the scenes where you'll have to climb some cliff and like. The last one, or rather the next, is the time. So ask yourself whether you have sufficient time to do, or rather to shoot the sequence. Ask yourself whether you have any backup plans. Rather, what are some of the backup plans must you make to protect the production in case a serious problem arises? Okay, whether you can be able to organize for another day for you to be able to shoot that same part that you are planning to shoot. Maybe there's some breakdown of the equipment. There could be a change of weather that may negatively impact on the production. So ask yourself, what are the backup plans? Now, the other part that you are going to research on is administration, and this is on various business arrangements and agreements. So here you obtain permission to shoot, the passes, the permits, etc. Yeah? So if you are to conduct a particular shoot, the locations where you are going to undertake that particular shoot, you must be having permission to shoot there. Okay, so if the place is owned by a private entity, you'll have to talk to them to get that permit. If it is probably owned by county government, you'll have to talk to those ones who are in authority to give you that permit. If there's any money that you are supposed to pay, then you'll have to know how much and arrange to pay for it in advance. Now, again, you realize that in your production, you'll be using what? You'll be using other people's productions, like, for example, photographs, music, and the like. So for you to be able to use other people's work, other people's productions to be part of your production, you must be having a permission for you to be able to use that. Then the other one is about insurance. That is to you research on the appropriate insurer that will, so that you can be able to be in a position to cover the losses, breakages, injury, etc. You have to get to understand the unions. Probably these production team members, the talent, they belong to a particular union. So you have to get to an agreement with those unions. And that brings us to our end of our lesson today. So thank you very much.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.